Hey, can you read this? Do you know what it means? I guess you can read this. This is a tablature from ultimateguitar.com, what you find on the internet. This is a classical piece. You get all the information you need when you're a guitar player, where to put your fingers on in the fretted hand and which fingers to use, which is underlined. You get some idea on the rhythm because that little lines indicate that the rhythm must be very regular. Have you an idea what piece that is? Have you an idea in what key that it is in? Well, you could deduce that if you finger it on the guitar, so you will hear, and you can find that out. But you can't read it actually, can you? These are the same two bars. It's the first study of Opus 60 by Matteo Carcassi in C major. And here are provided all the infos that are lacking in the tablature alone. We have the time signature, the tempo Allegro, it's quite quick. We have a key signature, no accidental at the beginning, so must be C major or A minor. We have dynamic, mezzo forte. We have information on the voicings, that the first note is a bass note, it has a stem going down and is a quarter note, or the others are eighths. And we have the information staccato. There's a lot of things in there that have certain meanings that the tab doesn't provide. Carcassi's edition from 1852 does not provide too much fingering information. There is actually only the fourth finger and second bar for the D. All the rest, he was convinced that students knew, because Opus 60 is just the following number of Opus 59, which is Carcassi's method of guitar. If you use Opus 60 in addition to the method, you have all the information you need to play that. In a modern edition, one of those, you see that fingerings here. It's written P for the first C, then M-I-M-I, and from F downwards, it's indicated to play with the thumb. Probably you would play that with alternate stroke IM2, but here the editor underlined what Carcassi actually meant, and he says in his method, play all the notes on the bass strings with thumb, and all the notes on the treble string with alternate stroke IM. And if you have arpeggi, you use the ring finger as well. Later on in the Ultimate Guitar tab, we have this information. And this is for a actually very simple C major, G major arpeggio. But what you need is the tab for the positions on the fretboard, the left-hand numbers under the tab, and the right hand playing on the tab as well. Can you read that easily? You have to read one after another, don't you? Musical notation wants to provide more than that. Let's see what this means. The first bar in late 18th century notation, so only one voice, and added here the fingering for right and left hand. In the second Carcassi's version, he wants to point out that the bass notes are half notes, 1, 2, 1, 2, that had to ring on the rest of the arpeggio. You probably would do that anyway, but in this way it's very precisely written down. This is what Carcassi actually published in 1852. Compare that with the tab from Ultimate Guitar. What's better? What other information provides musical notation that tab hides? It's harmony. Look on this tab. Is there something special, remarkable in there? You just see what to do, but you can't see nothing that's strange. It's just numbers. Now, let's take a look on the music. Do you see something remarkable here? Well, first thing probably is the crescendo that you see in bar 3 and 4. And if you are a good reader, you see immediately that bar 4 and 5 has an F sharp. When you are musically informed, you know that accidentals within the bars and not in the key signature at the beginning of the stuff are indications of something's happening harmonically in this piece. So this F sharp does mean something, and it comes to your eye almost immediately. If you are in the original key, you have no accidentals within the bars. Here you have, so you know something happens. This is what I read. You see the first bar and can read as a word that you have a C major scale. There is no fingering indicated, so you automatically know this must be first position. Second bar is the same scale but beginning from E, the third grade. And third bar beginning from G, which is the fifth grade. All information that you have if you have learned to read music. And you just can play that words, which are the scales here. Now, the famous bar 4, we have that F sharp. This F sharp means that we change harmonically from C major to something else. Only F sharp means that we have a guide tone to G. Well, in this case, F sharp is inserted, but it doesn't work as a guide tone because we don't have the G afterwards. The scale is descending. From that point on, even if it's not going to G, there's something happening. Well, this scale alone played from C would be odd. Well, actually we are starting in G. And anyway, this F sharp is remarkable. And actually it's the first hint that we are going to G major. And at the end of the bar, what we have as the last two notes is A, D, followed by G. And this is the bass 2, 5, 1. Jazzes would be very happy to. In jazz. So the modulation from C major to G major is indicated very clearly by that accidental that we have in here. You won't see that in tab. It's not only harmony that is easier to detect if you have notation, but it's voicings as well. Look at this. If I tell you that here are two distinct voices written down, you can see them. But if you don't know, would you immediately see it? I don't know. How is that transcribed to late 18th century music? All on one stem, the same direction, just one voice. Would you detect here two voices? Well, I actually would not, because that seems to be, at first sight, just one voice. And that's not the way Carcassi wrote it. Carcassi wrote it in this way. Here you see clearly the first line, the first note C with the stem going down, which marks it as a thumb note and a bass note. Then the scale going up from first to fourth grade and then descending with the stems in up, which means this is the soprano voice. And that has a response on the bass because in bar 2 all the notes have the stems going down. So this is a bass line. And here you can conclude that we have two musicians playing here. One musician is playing and the other is answering. If we combine that with the PF at the beginning, which means piano forte, first play piano and then immediately forte, we are invited to play, for example, the bass note piano and then the line following forte. And probably the following bass line again piano, so we have two different characters. So we are very much invited to do expression and not only produce the notes. Tablature would not show that. Well, modern editions that provide the combined tab and notation version of pieces understood that. But actually, guitarists that don't read music use the notation in first place to understand the rhythm of the piece. In this case, the rhythm is not that complicated. It's always eighth note. So what does the music more than the tab? You see the fourth finger for the D, as I said before, keep the C at the quarter note. You can't do that really if you play the D with the third finger as you probably would do normally in first position, because you have to leave the low C in order to go to the D, and this makes the low C not a quarter but an eighth note. In order to be able to play it as a quarter note, you need the fourth finger, and Carcassi added that fingering in his 1852 edition. So next three notes don't have fingerings at all, so you would do as you have learned from Carcassi in Opus 59 in the method, just play it in first position. The A on the fourth beat of the first bar is first finger, and there is fifth position written in French over that. So all the scale that you see here, at one glance, if you are a good reader, is the scale in C major going up and then going down. You just need the information, C major scale, fifth position. If you know how to play that, you don't have to read single notes. You just play the word you see. In bar 3, we have accidentals. So again, harmonically is happening something. F sharp and G sharp to an expert reader indicates almost immediately A minor. Going on actually here. Accidentals within the bar are very, very evident, because in C major you would not expect to see those. If there are, that has to mean something. In tablature, you don't see it. All that phrase is this. So again, two persons playing, one in the soprano, one in the bass, and both are in different tonalities, because the first is all C major and the second is all A minor. Reading music provides the information you need to have a good understanding formally and harmonically, melodically, and as voices are concerned of the piece, in order to make an interpretation that points out all that things that are happening in the piece, and not only playing the notes. I studied in Italy with Angelo Gilardino some 30 years ago, not only studying guitar but having some good beer. So there was a pub where they played music, and there was a Pink Floyd cover band playing. The singer was singing from a sheet. I was curious to see what he actually wrote down there, and he had the chords and the text, but the text was right what you read. He might not have been an expert English speaker, so he wrote down what he had to sing in Italian as you would write it if you pronounce it right in English. So, you don't need no education. And that was more or less his pronunciation. And you understood, we don't need no education. Well, I actually believe that we need education in music reading to understand better classical music. If you just want to play the piece, what you already know by listening, tablature is enough. But if you want really to understand what the composer meant musically and what dramatically is happening within the piece, reading is indispensable. So learn that. Look for a good teacher. Thank you for watching. Bye.